Hello and welcome to this video about ISO 9001-2015 quality objectives with examples. In this video, my main aim is to help you to truly understand what the actual requirements of the standard are when it comes to quality objectives. And we are also going to go over 3 case studies of actual companies who have implemented ISO 9001, and we are going to be discussing their specific requirements when it came to quality objectives to make sure that these companies meet the requirements set by the standard. Okay, so without further ado, I wanted to first of all start by explaining in a simple way what the actual requirements by the standard are for quality objectives. So quality objectives are mentioned in clause 6.2 of the ISO 9001-2015 version of the standard. And the first thing that we're going to see is the actual requirement from the standard, which states that the organization shall establish quality objectives at relevant functions, levels, and processes needed for the quality management system. So from here, we can start to understand that quality objectives can be set at various levels within the company, okay? So a small company might have a number of quality objectives, and the larger company might have a larger number of quality objectives because there might be 7 different functions and levels within the company. And the standard also mentions that we have to consider the processes relevant to the company when setting up quality objectives. As you might recall from other videos that I have shared on this website, we have seen that any company can have 4 main types of key processes, which are sales, purchasing, operations, and design and development. Okay, so the standard is practically asking us to set objectives relating to any function or level within the organization, but also to set quality objectives relating to the processes needed for the quality management system, as I have just explained. And the quality objectives, the standard says, shall be consistent with the quality policy, be measurable, take into account applicable requirements, be relevant to conformity of products and services, and to enhance customer satisfaction, be monitored, be communicated, and be updated as appropriate. And I'm going to now be explaining each one of these requirements as set within the standard. So be consistent with the quality policy. This means that when we are setting up the quality objectives, we have to take the quality policy of the organization as the main aim of where we are aiming in terms of quality, okay? And the quality objectives will then translate the vision that the company has in terms of quality as stated in the quality policy, and we have to translate that into actual numbers, okay? So if, for example, in the quality policy, we are stating that the company strives to meet its customer expectations and has to deliver an on-time service, okay? So that is what we are striving for in terms of a vision, and that is set within the quality policy. Then within the quality objectives, we have to define exactly what do we mean by delivering the service on time. Will we deliver it on time 100% of the cases, 95% of the cases? What do we actually mean by delivering the service on time? And we have to associate a number with what we have stated within the quality policy. Okay, be measurable is another of the requirements set for quality objectives, and it is extremely important that our quality objectives are measurable. As you might know, there is the acronym which is SMART objectives, okay? So specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, okay? So when we are setting up quality objectives, first of all, we have to make sure that they are specific in the sense that it is easy to understand what the objective is referring for. If we are taking an example of a person wishing to improve on their physical fitness and they want to run more, for example, we will not just set an objective saying that I want to run more next year, but we will say that, for example, I want to run 5 kilometers in 25 minutes, okay? So that is a very specific and measurable objective. Another important element is that objectives have to be attainable, in the sense that we can gather the information that we need to measure the objective, and they have to be realistic, okay? So it is useless for me, for example, to set up an objective for myself to run 5 kilometers in 15 minutes, because I will not be able to do that with my current level of fitness, unfortunately. But a realistic objective for me would be that I will run 5 kilometers in 25 minutes, okay? So it is useless to set up objectives that are extraordinarily high, that we know that we are not going to reach. It is better to set up objectives that are slightly pushing us over the boundaries that we have set right now, but then that they are actually realistic and that we can actually meet these targets. Finally, objectives have to be timely, in the sense that we have to define by when do we want to actually reach the said objective. For example, I want to run 5 kilometers in 25 minutes by the end of this year. Okay, so this by the end of this year makes the objective a timely objective. Okay, so the standard just mentions that the objectives have to be measurable, but I prefer taking it a step further and applying the SMART principle when setting up objectives to make sure that we are setting up well-formed objectives. The next element that the standard mentions is that we have to take into account applicable requirements, okay? So these might be customer set requirements or regulatory requirements. So we have to make sure that whatever objective we are setting is in line with the requirements of both the customer and statutory and legal requirements, okay? Another element that we have to consider is that objectives have to be relevant to conformity of products and services and to the enhancement of customer satisfaction. What this means in practice is that we also have to set up objectives to monitor the level of customer satisfaction that we are aiming for as a company, okay? This is a quality management system, and therefore it is important that we set up some type of objective that will help us to ensure that we are giving a good quality product or service to our clients. And objectives can be either specifically on the product itself or actually on the enhancement of customer satisfaction. And of course, we can monitor customer satisfaction by getting feedback from the customers. Another element that we are considering is that objectives have to be monitored, in the sense that it is useless to set up an objective if we are not actually monitoring the data and receiving the data so that we can analyze the objectives in an objective way so that we can grow as a company. Another element that we have to consider is that quality objectives have to be communicated with the relevant people, okay? So if a particular person is responsible or has some kind of direct impact on the company reaching the said objective, then that person must know that the company has such quality objectives so that the person can be pulling the same rope as the rest of his or her colleagues to make sure that everyone is striving to reach the same objectives. Finally, the standard asks us to make sure that quality objectives are updated as appropriate, okay? Usually, I like to update quality objectives of my clients during the management review, which is an opportunity where we are reviewing the performance that we obtained in the past year relating to our quality objectives. And depending on how much of our objectives we reach, then we can update the quality objectives for the next year to make them more realistic and relevant to the current needs of the company. Finally, the standard mentions that the organization shall maintain documented information on the quality objectives. Whenever we see the word documented information, this means that we have to have some kind of record. Okay, so this has to be written anywhere. It can be an Excel sheet, it can be a physical paper, it can be a software, but somehow we need to actually write down the quality objectives in a way that can be evaluated during an internal audit. So clause 6.2.1 explains in detail the actual requirements that we have when it comes to setting up quality objectives. And clause 6.2.2 then goes about and speaking that when planning how to achieve its quality objectives, the organization shall determine what will be done, what resources will be required, who will be responsible, when it will be completed, how the results will be evaluated. Okay, these are extremely self-explanatory requirements for what we have to do for each of the quality objectives as per ISO 9001-2015 requirements. So what will be done is the actual objective itself, what resources will be required for the company to reach the given quality objective. Okay, so resources might be financial, might be time, might be allocating people or resources, so that, or equipment, excuse me. So there are different types of resources that a company can allocate to reach a particular quality objective. Who will be responsible for the quality objective? And even though most of my clients ask me to put more than one person as responsible for a quality objective, I always like only having one person who is ultimately responsible for a quality objective to be met, because a ship cannot have two captains. Only one captain can drive a ship. In this case, the ship is the quality objective, and each quality objective has to be driven by a single person. Of course, a single person can have multiple objectives, but a single objective cannot have multiple people responsible for the attainment of such quality objective. Finally, excuse me, there's another one. When it will be completed. So we have to, as I mentioned before in the SMART objectives, we have to set a deadline by when we intend to reach the quality objectives. And finally, the standard asks us to define how the results will be evaluated. And over here, I like to mention that the results will be evaluated during the management review, which, as I've mentioned, is an excellent opportunity to review the quality objectives for the next year based on the performance of the objectives that we have attained in the previous year. And now I'm going to move on to ISO 9000. ISO 9000 is a standard also within the ISO 9001 family, which basically gives details on how we should interpret specific words. And ISO 9000 in clause 3.7.1 explains what is an objective. An objective is a result to be achieved. Okay, so an objective can be strategic, tactical, or operational, as we have seen from the standard of ISO 9001 itself. And there might be different types of objectives. There might be financial, health and safety, environmental objectives, and these can apply at different levels. Okay, so they can be strategic, organization-wide, and we can also have project-based results that we are aiming to achieve, and such results would be also called an objective. And an objective can be expressed in other ways. For example, intended outcome, a purpose, an operational criterion as a quality objective, or by the use of other words with similar meaning. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have to be called an objective, but we can have goals, aims, targets, OKRs. We can have different types of wording. The most important thing is that we have some kind of objective, and an objective is a result that has to be reached. Next, that in the context of the quality management system, quality objectives are set by the organization, and they have to be consistent with the quality policy to achieve specific results. Okay, I have explained all of this in detail earlier on in this video. And finally, Note 5 states that this constitutes one of the common terms and core definitions of ISO management system standards given in Annex SL of the consolidated ISO supplement. Okay, so that is what is actually required in terms of an objective. And when we say specifically quality objectives, these have to be objectives that are relating to quality. Okay, so quality objectives are generally based on the organization's quality policy. Okay, and as I have mentioned before, there can be other disciplines, other topics, for example, health and safety. There can be financial objectives, and all of these can be objectives. For avoidance of doubt, I do not like to have a section where I mention objectives and another section where I mention quality objectives. I take all objectives and quality objectives within the same section within this standard, and I like putting down all the objectives for the company within the same section on the quality manual. And now I'm going to move forward by explaining some real-life examples of ISO 9001-2015 quality policy. Okay, so for example, over here we have a food manufacturing company, and we have started, one of the objectives was relating to the sales. Okay, so to have an average stock turnover, which is less than 3 months. The physical versus theoretical stock take has to be less than 2% by value. New product development, more than 5 products per year. And we have to sell more than 200,000 euros worth of sales between the 5 different products that we are developing in the next year. As you can see, some of these objectives might not be directly relating to the sales activity. However, we should not get confused about the category in which a specific objective has to go through, but rather we would be much better off if we set the quality objectives in a way that benefits the company and do not get confused on the semantics or technicalities of where the actual objective has to be. Another objective that this company set relating to the human resources, this time, it is to have an employee turnover of less than 10% of the total full-time employees. Okay, so of course, employee turnover is an important metric for any company, and as such is a fantastic example of a quality objective for ISO 9001 that most companies should adopt. Okay, customer feedback. There are different ways in which we can track quality objectives when it comes to customer feedback, and 2 of them are, for example, to evaluate the market share, or another question might be to ask our clients how likely are they to refer us to friends and family. Okay, as you might know, this final question refers to the Net Promoter Score. Okay, another element of customer feedback that we can consider is the likelihood or the percentage of sales that is generated by repeat clients. Of course, the most important metric when it comes to a happy customer is a repeat purchase. So the more repeat purchases that we have, the more our customers are happy with the service or products that we are providing them with. Next up, we're going to talk about the operations for in terms of the quality objectives for this food manufacturing company. And over here, we have some goals relating to quality, for example. So out of spec products, we have to have less than 5 cases monthly. Unexpected breakdowns, which can result from technical faults, we have to have less than 5 breakdowns monthly. Foreign objects or contamination within the products that we are manufacturing have to be 0 cases per month. Okay, so there is no tolerance to foreign objects or contamination. Stock availability, that we should not have any cases where we run out of stock every month. And then we are considering the profitability in terms of EBIT and EBITDA, which have to be 18% and 25% respectively. So as you can see from this first case study, where we are giving some examples of quality objectives based on ISO 9001, the standard will not tell us, for example, what type of market share we should have, because this highly depends on the size of the company, the industry that you are working with, and various other topics. In this case, the company decided to actually consider market share because they have the relevant information that they need, and because it is an important metric for them to evaluate the performance of customer feedback. Okay. Another example for quality objectives relating to ISO 9001 is for a company working within the lifting services. Okay, so this company rents out cranes and tower cranes. And once again, we are going to start with the sales targets. And this company has decided that they want to win at least one important tender, that they want to have rental of 3 or more tower cranes in 2 or more major construction projects, because of course, this objective will help to cement the position of the particular company as the leading provider of tower cranes in the country. Okay. Another objective might be to maintain an 85% occupancy from tower crane rental and an 80% occupancy for mobile crane hire. Okay. As you can see, the values of tower cranes and mobile cranes, okay, are different. So one of them is 85% and the other is 80%. And this goes to show that the standard will not tell you the actual value that you have to reach within your quality objective. What we have to do within the quality objectives is that we have to find important areas within our company that we want to improve upon, and we have to find a respective value, a measurable and specific goal or target that we want to reach relating to that topic. Another example of a quality objective is that we have to communicate with clients to service their cranes at least once every 6 months, and that we have to communicate with clients to perform certification on their crane at least once every year. Okay, so these objectives were set by the company depending on how they want to treat their customers and depending on what they have stated within their quality policy. Okay. Next up, we have some human resources objectives. Once again, we have an objective relating to the employee turnover, which in this case, it is a 5% employee turnover, and that the company, given that the company works within a regulated environment, they want to make sure that 100% of their staff have the certifications that are needed to do the respective work. For example, to operate mobile cranes, tower cranes, working at heights, using forklifts, health and safety training, and first aid training. Okay. Another objective is relating to customer feedback. And in this case, the company has considered repeat customers, and here they are seeking a 90% returning customers. Okay. And they also took the question of how do you rate the level of our service from 1 to 10, and they want to achieve a rating of more than 8. Moving on to the next category of quality objectives, we have the operational objectives, where we want to install service internal tower cranes a minimum of once every 4 months. Okay. Unscheduled maintenance on at least tower cranes has to be less than 2% of all tower cranes per day. And the average time to do general service on cranes has got to be 9 hours. Okay. So from these operational objectives, we can notice that the company, given that it is specialized basically in the renting out of equipment, one of their most critical elements is to make sure that their equipment is perfectly up and running. And so they have set quality objectives to monitor how much of their equipment is in good running conditions. And they have also set up objectives on how frequently they have to do maintenance to make sure that the cranes are running at optimal quality. Also, given that maintaining a tower crane takes quite a lot of time, they have set a goal of 9 hours, which is the time that it is expected for the company to do a general service on the cranes. Naturally, for the company to be able to monitor this quality objective, they have to have a checklist of what they do actually mean by general service, okay? So it cannot mean one thing for a person and another thing for someone else, okay? So the first thing that we would have to do in this case would be to define through a checklist the elements of work that have to be done in a general service, so that then we would be in a position to monitor the actual time that it takes for employees to do a general service on cranes. Finally, we are seeing the example of a security services company, okay? And here, the examples relating to the quality objectives that we have found out start with the human resources once again, okay? So this company is extremely ambitious and they want to recruit 500 more employees by the end of the year, okay? They want to achieve a staff turnover of less than 5%, and they want to train all their employees at least 4 hours per year on upkeep on health and safety requirements, okay? Once again, I want to point out that the 3 different companies that we have discussed in this video do have different objectives relating to the human resources, okay? So I want to emphasize once again that the quality objectives that are set up by your company when you are implementing ISO 9001 should not be focused on what the standard is actually asking us to do, but rather when it comes to the quality objectives, we have to consider what the company needs and what was stated within the quality policy of what defines quality in our organization. And based on what the company needs and what we have defined within the quality policy, we are going to set up the quality objectives accordingly. Another example of quality objectives as per ISO 9001-2015 is the customer feedback, okay? So in this case, for example, the company wants to have a market share of security services, for example, relating to the banking industry. They want to have more than 75%. They want to have more than 20% of 5-star hotels as their clients. They want 3 large companies within the gaming industry to be their clients, and they want to have factories as their clients, and they want to target more than 20% of all the factories in the country to be their clients. As you can see, these are very ambitious quality objectives that meet the goals of the company, because ultimately that is the point of setting up quality objectives. Some more objectives relating to customer feedback is that we are going to ask our clients how likely are they to refer us to friends and family. Once again, we are mentioning the Net Promoter Score over here. And in this case, the company wants to reach a target of more than 9. Next, that the company wants to log 100% of complaints onto a corrective and preventive action sheet, okay? And finally, excuse me, the company has set up an objective to have 0 complaints discovered by invoicing/debt collection, okay? So this is an extremely interesting example, which was brought out when we were having the discussions during the implementation, where the people who are calling their customers to for that collection to collect the money after the job has been done, then the clients would use that as an opportunity to complain about the product or service that was delivered by the company. And of course, that is not the right time to get feedback from your client, because at that point, at that collection stage, you want to get paid. So ideally, we give our clients an opportunity to speak to us before we actually ask them for the money. So in this case, we are setting up an objective that 0 complaints have to be discovered by invoicing and debt collection, and this will be done by implementing a system of gathering feedback from the client before actually doing debt collection, okay? So as you can see, in this case, the quality objectives are being used to monitor and to solve actual problems that the company has, and they want to target the solutions to the actual problems that they have through the use of quality objectives, okay? And that is the proper implementation of how we should do quality objectives as per ISO 9001-2015. Finally, some objectives relating to operations for the security services company, that we want to have an actual versus projected amount of working hours to be less than 0%. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are actually estimating the amount of hours that are needed for a job in an accurate way. Of course, if we overestimate the number of hours that we will need, then it is highly likely that our quote will be more expensive than our competitors, because we would think that we need more time than we actually need. And when it comes to underestimating, that is also a problem, because then we would be losing money on a project. So it is, for this company, it was important to set up an objective where the projected versus the actual hours spent on each particular job has to match exactly, and there has to be a 0% variance. Next objective was to conduct a 30-minute review meeting once per week, including administration, to discuss client/work problems. Excuse me. So this objective ties with the objective that I was mentioning before, relating to have zero complaints discovered by invoicing/debt collection. So what the company did to solve that particular problem was that they decided to have a weekly meeting where the various departments of the company join together and they discuss any problems that they had with the client. So whenever someone is doing that collection, they would know what was done for a particular client to handle a problem if there was an actual problem. Okay, in this way, and with these two objectives, we are ensuring a better customer experience, because there is much more commonly shared information about how happy our clients are with our service. Another element that was discussed for the quality objectives in this example was that we have to arrive to clients on time. Okay, so in this case, we said 95% on time. And in the objective, we have also defined what does late mean. Okay, so late is when we arrive more than 15 minutes later than the time agreed with the client. And we are going to be linking this objective to a small bonus to ensure that people get there on time. Of course, whenever we want to reach an objective, we have to motivate people to actually strive to reach that objective. And in this case, since we are dealing with unskilled or semi-skilled workers, then we have decided to set up a financial objective linked directly to how much they arrive on time. Finally, the company has also set up an objective to recruit a storekeeper by January 2022. Okay, so they are very much in time to recruit this storekeeper right now. So that is all I had to say when it comes to quality objectives and ISO 9001. I hope that you found the examples in this video to be of interest, and that they will help you to achieve your goals when it comes to the implementation or auditing of ISO 9001 of any company. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch on hello@lucdesira.com or to use the contact page on this website to get in touch. I would love to help you to succeed in your ISO 9001 certification goals. And for now, that is all I had to say. I wish you a great day ahead. Thank you.